Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, if you could smash that subscribe button, and also if you guys could hit the like, that would be much appreciated. Anyway, today we will be covering a fantasy fight. This fantasy fight is a little bit different because both of these fighters are actually still currently active, and also this fight was actually scheduled to take place, but the fight fell through due to drug testing issues. Now the fight in question is Deontay Wilder versus Alexander Povetkin. Now this fantasy fight is being told from the perspective of what I thought would have happened if they fought in May 2016. First and foremost, a little backstory into this fight. The actual fight itself was scheduled to take place on the 21st of May 2016. Deontay Wilder at the time was 36-0 and he was the WBC heavyweight champion, and Alexander Povetkin, he was 30-1 and he was the WBC mandatory challenger. At the time, Deontay Wilder was still a fairly new world champion. He was champion for just over a year at that point, and he was having his first few defences against lower level competition. And it has to be said, in that time frame, he wasn't looking great holding that belt. You know, he got rocked by Eric Molina in his first title defense. He was getting touched up fairly regularly by the jab of Johan Duhaupas, and also he had a few troubles in that fight, and also Arthur Spielka gave him all he could handle. So at this time, Wilder made 3 title defences against lower level competition, and these guys were taking him rounds and giving him problems. At this time, Wilder really was still getting used to being a champion, and he was bedding in. As for Alexander Povetkin, at this point, he was arguably in the best form of his career. You know, he was post-Klitschko, and he was knocking out everything in sight. He knocked out Mike Perez in a round. He knocked out Marius Vac. He knocked out Carlos Takam brutally. He knocked out Manuel Charr brutally. So at this time, Povetkin was arguably in the form of his career. Now the fight fell through due to a positive test for meldonium on Povetkin's side. That drug test was subsequently, months later, overturned, and Wilder said that Alexander Povetkin had no wrongdoing in the matter. So Povetkin was eventually cleared of the drug charge. But regardless, that is the backstory to the fight. Who would have won this fight if they fought on the 21st of May 2016? One more thing before I go into it. When this fight was cancelled, I was extremely disappointed. Obviously, over the years, multiple fights have been cancelled, but, you know, very few cancellations left me more disappointed than this one. I was super hyped for this fight. I was really looking forward to it at the time. But anyway, let's get into it. Who do I feel would have won this fight? First and foremost, I do want to say, I think this fight would have been very competitive, and certainly I can see a scenario where both guys win this fight. Obviously, as for Deontay Wilder, the guy's technically flawed, he's very raw, but as we know, the guy does have an extremely powerful straight right hand, he's tall and long, and he's fairly quick for a big man, and he's ungainly and unorthodox. Sometimes that can make guys hard to figure out. So naturally, Deontay Wilder in this fight would have had a chance, basically due to his physical advantages and also his physical gifts, mainly his punching power. He would certainly have a chance in this fight, but I think context is key in this one. If we look at the momentum of both guys at the time, yes, Deontay Wilder just won the title, but in his first few title defences, he wasn't looking great, whereas Povetkin was basically smoking anything in sight. He was knocking guys out for fun. So Povetkin was coming into this fight with better form, I would say. And also another thing to consider, this fight was scheduled to take place in Russia. Al Heyman actually got outbid by Povetkin's promoters. I believe it was Ryabinski. They bid big on this fight, and this fight would have been in Russia, which again is another factor. But at this time, Alexander Povetkin was certainly the guy in form. He was the more polished fighter, And all in all, he was just a much more experienced guy and a massive step up for Deontay Wilder at this time. A really, really big step up. And I've got to be honest, at the time, I was favouring Alexander Povetkin. I doubted whether Wilder could go into Povetkin's backyard and get the job done. You know, for me, he just wasn't looking convincing in the fights before that. He hadn't fought anybody on the level of a Alexander Povetkin, and he never fought a hard fight away from home. So, in my opinion, everything in terms of form, all of that sort of stuff, was leaning towards Povetkin. And skill for skill, I've got to say, Povetkin all around is just a much more talented fighter. Yes, he's smaller, but he's got a far better amateur pedigree. And naturally, he's just a better fighter than Deontay Wilder. Technically, he's just a better fighter. Povetkin's main problem in this fight would have been the range of Deontay Wilder. You know, getting past Deontay Wilder's straight punches and getting past that powerful right hand. That's Alexander Povetkin's main problem in this hypothetical fight. At this time, Povetkin was a lot more fresher than he is now, naturally. And all around, he was just a quicker fighter, both in terms of hand speed and foot speed. So cutting the distance for Povetkin, in my opinion, wouldn't have been an impossible task. Yes, I'm sure it would have been a risky task because obviously you've got that right hand of Wilder. But in my opinion, Povetkin had the foot speed to close the gap, and he also had the movement to close the gap. Povetkin is not like a Mike Tyson type of guy who bobs and weaves and things like that, but Povetkin can subtly move his head, slip a jab, come underneath and start working. Deontay Wilder is a guy who can't really jab on the back foot that effectively, to be quite honest. Yes, he did it against Stavern, but Stavern's got no idea on how to cut a ring off. You know, Povetkin does. Povetkin can cut a ring off. And for the most part, Deontay Wilder, even when he throws a jab, needs to be stationary to get full leverage and to get full power into it. At these times, I could see Povetkin slipping the jab, coming underneath and working basically, you know, getting his work up close done, up close and mid-range. If Povetkin gets to that area, then I think Deontay Wilder would have been in a lot of trouble, to be honest with you. For me, Deontay Wilder's inside fighting ability is very lacking, both in terms of offense and defense, but particularly in terms of defense. When somebody gets inside on him, Deontay Wilder really can't neutralise these guys. He'll try and hold, he'll try and grab, but that's really all he can do. And he doesn't really do that effectively, to be honest. Listen, at the end of the day, clinching itself is an art form and it is a skill. Deontay Wilder was never really great at clinching, to be honest. And also on top of that, he's not the most physically strong guy in the world. Yeah, he's 6'7", but he's not the most physically strong 6'7". On the inside and at mid-range, I don't think Wilder would have really been able to handle Povetkin, to be honest. And in regards to Povetkin's power, especially at that time, I'll be honest, if Povetkin's catching Wilder clean, he's going to hurt him, potentially drop him and finish him. Again, historically, Povetkin has always been a pretty good finisher. When he's had guys hurt, he's finished them. Look at the Takam fight, the Manuel Char fight. You know, fights like this, he really hurt guys and finished them. The Mike Perez fight. I think if he hurt Deontay Wilder, especially that version of Wilder, I'm pretty sure he would have finished him. I don't think he would have let him off a hook, especially in Russia, with his home crowd cheering him and Povetkin being within his home comforts. If this fight happened in May 2016, I just think all of the signs would have pointed to an Alexander Povetkin win. Like I said, overall, at the time, Povetkin was coming off better form. He was clearly the better fighter. He was more experienced. It was in his backyard. And I've got to be honest, if the fight happened, I would have picked Alexander Povetkin by knockout. Not sure when, but I would have picked Povetkin by knockout. Deontay Wilder is certainly a live dog in that hypothetical fight in 2016. He could have won if he landed cleanly, if he caught Povetkin coming in, which is a possibility. But at that time, I made Povetkin a favourite, and looking back, I would still take Povetkin to have won that fight if it would have taken place. But that's just my opinion. I would have taken Povetkin by knockout. Some of you guys may disagree with me, that's fine, but share your thoughts below. Tell me who you believe would have won that fight if it had taken place. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, something a little bit different. I've been meaning to do one of these fantasy fight videos for quite some time. This one was interesting mainly because the fight was scheduled and it didn't take place, and also, like I said, both of these guys are still active. So I thought this one was an interesting one to cover. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Peace.